So, how does an illiterate woodcutter, from a place everyone called barbaric, end up becoming the sixth patriarch of Zen? We're talking one of the most important figures in its entire history. Now this isn't just some old story. It's a really profound lesson about what wisdom even is. And it all comes down to a single question. Is enlightenment something you have to earn piece by piece, or is it a truth you just suddenly realize? Let's get into the incredible journey of Huneng, from the back of a monastery to the master's chair.
And it really all kicks off right here, with this one powerful line. This is what Huneng says the very first time he meets the fifth patriarch, right after being dismissed. This single idea, that our true nature, our Buddha nature, is the same in all of us, no matter who we are or where we're from, well, that's the key that unlocks this entire story.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're at the monastery on East Mountain. The fifth patriarch, a man named Hungren, is getting old. And a patriarch, you gotta understand, isn't just a boss. He holds this direct, unbroken chain of teaching that supposedly goes all the way back to the Buddha himself. He has to find a successor, someone to carry that torch. But, as we're about to see, the person he finds is the absolute last one anyone would have ever picked.
So Huneng walks for a month to get to the monastery. And what's the first thing he's called? Ge Liao. Barbarian. See, he was from Lingnan, way down south, which everyone up north considered backwards, uncivilized. To the other monks, he was a total outsider. Not just unqualified to learn. They thought he was fundamentally incapable of it.
The patriarch decides to test him right away, throwing that prejudice right in his face. You're a barbarian. How can you possibly become a Buddha? But look at Huneng's reply. It just slices right through all that social status and geography straight to the heart of the matter. He's already showing a depth of understanding that, frankly, none of the other monks have.
Now the patriarch sees his potential immediately, but he also sees the danger. He knows the other monks would be jealous, maybe even violent. So, to protect him, he pretends to be unimpressed and sends him to the back to do the hardest job there is, pounding rice all day with a heavy stone tied to his waist. For 8 long months, the future patriarch is just hidden in plain sight, a secret known only to the master.
So for 8 months, Huneng is just quietly working away. But that's all about to change. The patriarch announces the ultimate test. He tells all the monks to write a short verse, it's called a gatha, to express their true, deep understanding of the Dharma. And whoever writes the best one will be named the sixth patriarch. The stakes just could not be any higher.
And in that monastery, everyone knew who was going to win. I mean, it wasn't even a question. Shen Shu. He was the head monk, the instructor to hundreds of others, a brilliant scholar. He was the heir apparent. For everyone else, this whole contest was basically just a formality. So after 4 days of stressing about it, Shen Shu sneaks out in the middle of the night and writes this verse on a corridor wall. And you know, it's a beautiful metaphor for spiritual practice. He's saying the mind is like a mirror, and we have to constantly polish it to keep the dust of worldly problems from settling on it. It's a path of constant work, of gradual cleaning. So publicly, the patriarch sees the verse and praises it. He tells everyone, recite this, you'll gain great merit. But then he pulls Shenzhou aside, privately, and tells him the stone-cold truth. Your understanding is incomplete. You've made it to the gate, but you haven't actually walked through it yet. Meanwhile, back in the rice-pounding shed, Huneng overhears some kid reciting Shenzhou's verse. And he gets it instantly. He sees the flaw. Now remember, he can't read or write, so he asks someone to write his response on the wall right next to the other one. And his verse? It just blows the whole metaphor apart. He says there is no tree, there is no mirror, our true nature is already pure. Fundamentally, there's nothing for dust to land on in the first place. And this right here is the heart of the whole thing. It represents 2 major schools of thought in Zen. You've got Shen Shu's gradual path. You get to enlightenment over time through hard work and practice. And then you have Huneng's sudden path. Enlightenment is a direct, instantaneous flash of insight, a recognition of the purity that was always there.
Well, the monks are absolutely blown away by the illiterate woodcutter's poem. They're all whispering about a living bodhisattva among them. The patriarch sees this, and he knows the danger's back. So he comes out, scoffs at Huneng's verse, and erases it from the wall with his shoe, telling everyone it's also wrong. It was a brilliant public move to keep his chosen successor safe.
But of course, that whole public display was just an act. The patriarch knew for sure that the so-called barbarian from the south was the one. He was the one who really got it. So now he had to pass the teaching on. but it had to be done in total secrecy, which brings us to the midnight transmission.
The very next day, the Patriarch walks over to the rice shed and has this coded conversation. Is the rice ready? He asks. Of course, he's not talking about grain. He's asking if Huining is ready. And Huining's reply is perfect. Then, the master raps his staff on the mortar 3 times and walks away. Huining understands. It's a summons. Come to my room at the 3rd watch of the night.
So in the middle of the night, in the master's room, they put up a robe so no one can see them from the window. The Patriarch begins teaching from the Diamond Sutra. And when he says the line, "Produce a thought that is unsupported by anything," boom, Huining has a complete, profound awakening. He just sees it all, saying his true nature is pure, it's unborn, it's complete, it's unshakable, and from that nature, everything arises. The transmission was done.
The Patriarch immediately gives him the robe and the bowl. These are the symbolic items passed down from one Patriarch to the next, and tells him, you have to flee, right now. They will try to harm you. He warns him that the robe itself is a source of contention. The other monks would never, ever accept this.
You'd think becoming the Patriarch would be the end of his struggles, right? No. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter. He was hunted for months, and then for 15 years. 15 years he lived in hiding with a group of hunters, just protecting the teaching, waiting for the right moment. Can you imagine that? Over a decade of total silence after reaching the absolute peak of understanding. So after all that time, he finally shows up at a temple. He sees 2 monks arguing about a banner flapping in the wind. One monk says, the wind is moving. The other says, no, the flag is moving. Huining, who's still just dressed like a layman, steps in and says this, "It is not the wind nor the flag. It is your minds that are moving." The head of the temple overhears this and realizes this has to be the long-lost 6th Patriarch, and just like that, his identity is finally revealed.
So, we end up here. The story of Huineng isn't just about ancient history, it's a living question for all of us. You have Shenshu, who offers this path of diligent, gradual self-improvement, always wiping the mirror clean. Then you have Huineng, who points to a sudden lightning flash of recognition, realizing there was never any dust to begin with. 2 very different paths to the same goal. And the question for us is, in our own lives, in our own growth, which of those 2 ideas feels more true?